The entire world is in this massive race to build a new clean energy economy. But right at the heart of it, there's this huge paradox, a story of incredible natural wealth on one hand and a major economic disconnect on the other. And it all kind of boils down to a few key minerals.
Okay, just take a look at cobalt. It's that mineral that's absolutely essential for the batteries and, well, pretty much everything. Our phones, our electric cars. Africa mines a whopping 70% of the entire global supply. And it's a similar story for other critical stuff like manganese and platinum. The continent is literally digging up the foundations of our green future.
But, and here's the paradox, when you look at who actually profits from turning all that raw material into things like batteries or solar panels, Africa's share of the economic value is less than 1%. Think about that. The continent provides all the key ingredients, but gets almost none of the final reward. So what is going on? What explains this massive gap?
To really get our heads around this, we need to talk about something called the value chain. It sounds a little technical, I know, but it's really the key to understanding why this imbalance exists, and more importantly, how it could all change.
The easiest way to think of it is like a ladder. Every single step a product takes, from being dug out of the ground to ending up in a consumer's hands, adds more value. And more value means more profit. It's not just about what you have in the ground, it's about what you do with it. So, a new report from the International Energy Agency points out that Africa's role right now is almost entirely on that very first rung of the ladder, just mining the raw ore. And that's the lowest value part of the whole process. It means the continent misses out on the better jobs, the new skills, and the real profits that come from the higher rungs, like processing, refining, and manufacturing, which for the most part are happening somewhere else.
And that right there leads us to the big question. Because this isn't just a problem, it's a massive opportunity. The IEA report actually lays out 3 potential pathways for African nations to start climbing that ladder.
All right, pathway number 1 is the most direct step up. Instead of just digging up raw ore and shipping it away, countries can process and refine it right there at home. The technical term is beneficiation, which is just a fancy way of saying you make the material more valuable before you sell it.
And the jump in value here is, well, it's just staggering. I mean, look at copper. Raw ore might be worth $100 a ton, but if you refine it into pure copper, its value skyrockets to $10,000 a ton. For manganese, the value multiplies by 200 times. Capturing even a little piece of that jump could create better jobs and build a much stronger economy.
And we are not talking about small change here. A high-potential scenario from the IEA suggests this market for processed minerals in Africa could be worth $120 billion by 2040. That's a huge increase from today, a massive new stream of revenue.
Now, of course, it's not that simple. There are real challenges. Refining takes a ton of energy, and right now, things like energy and transport costs can make it more expensive to do in Africa. But what if that whole energy challenge could be flipped on its head and turned into a huge advantage?
And that brings us right to pathway number 2, which is all about connecting 2 of Africa's greatest assets, its mineral wealth and its incredible world-class renewable energy potential.
The continent has some of the best solar and wind resources on the entire planet, way better than many parts of Europe. And this isn't just about generating clean electricity for homes, it's about using that cheap, clean power to create high-value, low-emissions industrial products that the rest of the world is desperate to buy.
Take iron, for example. Today, countries like South Africa export billions of dollars worth of just raw iron ore. But by using renewable hydrogen, they could transform that ore into low-emissions iron. That's a premium product worth over 4 times more. You've basically just created a brand new high-value export industry out of thin air.
The same idea applies to something like ammonia, which is so important for fertilizer and food security. Right now, Africa is an importer. But by harnessing all these renewables, the continent could not only become self-sufficient, but a major global exporter. You'd be turning a dependency into a strength. So that brings us to the final and maybe the most ambitious pathway. This is about taking that ultimate step up the value chain, manufacturing the finished products themselves.
Just think about electric vehicles for a second. On the current path, Africa might produce maybe 500,000 EVs by 2050, but in a high-potential scenario, that number leaps to 5 million vehicles. That's a 10-fold increase that could turn the continent into a major player in the global auto industry.
And this isn't starting from zero. Not at all. Countries like Morocco and South Africa already have established car industries they can build on. Tunisia has a strong electronics sector that's perfect for making things like battery components. Plus,
being right next door to the huge European market is a massive strategic advantage.
So the potential is crystal clear, but how do you actually make it happen? The IEA report is very clear that success isn't just going to happen on its own. It requires a really deliberate and strategic roadmap.
And crucially, this is not a one-size-fits-all plan. As the report itself says, these are just avenues to be pursued. Each nation really needs to design its own strategy based on its own unique strengths.
A lot of this work has to start at home. It means building strong local markets, focusing on the areas we have a real edge, investing in your people to build a skilled workforce, and tackling those cost barriers for energy and transport we mentioned earlier.
But no country can do this all by itself. International partnership is the real accelerator here. Things like coordinated investment, sharing data, and building supply chains that are resilient and fair, those are all essential to turning this potential into a reality for everyone.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. This new global energy economy is being built right now as we speak. So the question is no longer if Africa will play a part, but what part it's going to play. Will it continue to be the quarry, just providing the stones for others to build with? Or will it become one of the key architects, designing and building its own industrial future?